career strategies. That's our late night gouge session topic. And you guys know I only want to do the gouge on our topics about 15 minutes, and then you can ask us anything through the Convoz app. So here are some career strategies, and I went over this last night for our people at Amazon. Really, I want to focus on four big things or four big pieces to help you as you either look for a career or decide whether or not it's time to switch your career. Number one, know your skills and abilities. Number two, utilize effective written presentations. Number three, verbally present yourself. And number four, be board ready. And there's a fifth topic. We'll talk about it after I run through these for you. So when I say know your skills and abilities, if you've transitioned from the military and you haven't taken a career assessment recently, if you've just recently transitioned from a job, or maybe you've been laid off or your job role has been reduced and you're trying to decide about whether or not a new career is for you, get into the local career source offices and ask them to give you a career assessment. You can also go to the VA's voc rehab offices. They also do career assessments there. Take that test and find out really what are your strengths and what are the things that you're interested in. What are the positions that are open to you in those fields. If you haven't done a career assessment in a long time, go ahead and get one done. Also, along with that, I always tell people, when you know your skills and abilities, sit down and do a SWOT analysis on yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities to change? And then what are the threats? What are the things you really need to look out for, be aware of as it relates to your personality style and your skills and abilities when it comes to employment? So take a career assessment, identify your strengths and weaknesses, and also write out your goals for employment. We always hear people say they're looking for jobs, you're looking for jobs. If you're just looking for a job, you're going to end up with just a job. And at this stage of life, you've transitioned from the military, you really need to be looking for a career. Careers and jobs are two entirely different things. So write out your goals for employment, and when you get offered jobs, compare that job to what you've written out on your goal sheet. And if they're not compatible, then don't take that position. So many veterans end up within the first year or two of transitioning from the military. They're basically job hoppers because they can't find anything that fits them and what they want to do. So know yourself, get that career assessment done, know your strengths and weaknesses, and then write out your goals for employment so that when you do get a job offer, you can see if that's really the job that you want to be in. The next big piece was to utilize effective written presentations, and I can't stress this enough. Organize your documents and your certificates. And you've probably heard me talk about, and I usually, give this little spiel when I'm talking to college students, but to take all of your awards, your presentations, and put them into one binder. Have them separated with vices from career awards and certificates, vices, volunteer awards and certificates, vices, maybe even personal recommendation forms that people have written or letters that people have written out to support you in your endeavors. And take those things and get them bound up and then put them in a book. And really that book is a presentation of your accomplishments. And take that with you into your interviews. And when they ask you that good question, tell us something about yourself, or what are some things we should know about you, have a few of those pages tabbed out and you show that to your interviewer. It's showing someone who's really, number one, prepared for the interview. Number two, someone who really knows themselves and their strengths and abilities. And number three, it's going to set you apart from the average person that's showing up to an interview empty-handed. So go in prepared. I also want to utilize effective written presentations part. Have a functional and a chronological resume. Know which one you should be submitting for positions that you're applying for. Also, as veterans and military members, have your your standard one-page resume for your corporate positions, but then have that federal resume written out as well. That's the one that's longer. That's the one that needs to be specific to knowledge, skills, and abilities. You need to make sure that it's tailored to fit the position that you're going to be applying for, because almost all resumes now are run through computer systems, and in order for your resume to even be flagged, it has to hit so many of those keynote words that was in the job announcement. So make sure that you're taking the words and the skills and knowledge and abilities from the job announcement and making sure it's in your resume, on your federal resume, before you submit for that position. Also, complete applications and forms. You will be amazed at how many people are filling out filling out applications or forms for positions, and they don't completely or accurately fill out the application. Yeah, so that would be something that wouldn't get your application pulled or something that will come up as a red flag. Be sure to have effective written skills. Complete the applications, complete the forms, and then follow up and follow through. That means after you've submitted your application, contact the person, find out who the hiring manager is for that position. Let them know that you've submitted an application and you'd like to know what the status is. Don't be afraid to follow through, because you are the person who's seeking the position, so you need to be the person that follows through. So on our next big one, verbally present yourself. I cannot stress this enough. You have to be able to give a good presentation of who you are. So sit down, write out a paragraph or two, no more than 3 to 5 sentences a paragraph, where you speak about yourself. And then stand in the mirror and practice your pitch. When someone asks you, or when an interviewer asks you, tell us about yourself. They don't want to know what you had for breakfast that morning. They really want to know about you. So already have written out a paragraph that you've gone over. You don't have to memorize it or know it verbatim, but you really do have to know yourself. So when someone says, tell us about you at an interview or in a position, it's a group interview, or you're talking about yourself, trying to, get recommendations or get referred for a job, go ahead and be able to present yourself well verbally. Also, I tell people, brush up on your old skills. And by that, I mean, once you have submitted applications or submitted your resumes and you're waiting for callbacks and for people to contact you, when they do call you, don't answer the phone as if you're talking to your best friend for 20 years. You do want to have a professional presence on the phone. You want to be able to present yourself well. You want to make sure that when the employers are following up and they're calling you, that they're not getting the hip hop version of you. So have a professional demeanor. If you don't remember what some of those old school telephone skills are, Google them. Brush yourself up on how to say, this is who I am. May I please ask who's speaking? Yes, this is he or she. How do I help you? How can I help you? Know what those skills are. And for our last point that I want to talk about, be board ready. And what that means is this: you're in the military. You remember, before you would go for a board, you would get prepared for that board. You would submit all the application, submit your board package that you needed in order to even be looked at or selected. You would also go over your uniform. You would make sure that there were no Irish pennants on it. You dot your I's, cross your T's. So do the same thing when you're getting ready to apply for or go for an interview that's out here in the civilian world. So prepare for your interview. Research the company that you have apply to, know about the position that you're applying to, try and do some research on the company. What type of projects does the company currently have going? Who are clients that they are working with? Find out as much as you can. The internet today is a really great resource for people, so go ahead and do your research. Also, get grilled. And what I mean by get grilled is, you remember when you were preparing for boards, your rack mates would give you pretend or mock boards. They have a list of questions and they go over and shoot it off. Well, do the same thing when you're preparing for an interview. Find someone that you work with, or someone that you trust, a family member, a friend, or even a spouse, and ask them to do a mock interview, especially if you haven't done an interview in a long time. Have them ask you some standard interview questions. Tell us about yourself. What are your strengths? What do you like about our company? What brings you, why are you applying for this position? And have some answers, and know how to respond to those questions, because they're pretty standard for every interview. You're going to be asked, so go ahead and get ready for them. And then I want you to also do some grilling. And what I mean by that is, just like you get grilled, you have someone asking you a bunch of questions, have some questions prepared for the interviewer or the company that you're going to be interviewing with. Ask them as many questions as related to that position. Find out everything you can. Find out the things that you couldn't find on the internet. Talk to them about, hey, in my research of your company, I saw X, Y, and Z, but I didn't see where you do this, that, and the other. Have questions for them. That's number one, is going to set you apart from the other people that are interviewing. And number two is going to show them that you really have an interest in the company and the position that you're applying for. And my last bit on that is ask for the job. How many people go in for interviews, they do an interview, you feel like the interview is great, and then you never hear anything back, or you hear back and they say, well, you didn't get the job. A lot of people don't get the job because they don't ask for it. The Bible says a man has not because he asks not. So whenever you go for an interview, even if you don't feel like you did well on the interview, don't be afraid to ask for the job, because after all, why are you at the interview if you didn't want the job? So ask for the job. And my last little piece that I didn't talk about that I said I was going to mention is be a good employee. Once you get hired, Be a good employee. Show up on time. These are, you know, this is standard stuff. You've been in the military. You know what it means to be somewhere on time, on deck time. You know, to get there before you get there time. You knew when to muster. Have the same type of drive and push in your civilian capacity as you did in the military. So, be a good employee. Show up on time. You don't do those no calls, no shows. You know. Be someone who is promotable, so that when your promotion time comes up or you want to apply for an advanced position, they're going to take a look at how you've performed in the past as an employee. And if you're someone who constantly calls off, constantly doesn't show up to work, you're not dependable, then you're not going to get the promotion, or you're not going to get the raise that you would have anticipated having. So that is my last tip. Be a good employee. So as you know, you can go out to Convoz, ask us any follow-up questions that you have on career strategies that I just talked about here. I'm going to take this video, get it cleaned up,